जिंदाबाद अपनी MSO जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद
needs to be understood, as well as the international response, the European response, the United Nations, the Americans, the third world response. All of this needs to be understood, because I think we are at a very difficult, one of the most difficult periods for the Palestinian movement. The movement has weakened, the resistance has weakened over the, ever since the Syrian war. 2011, we thought that we were not far away from freedom. But then the Syrian war has led to a lot of complications in the region. And in the last few years, the issue of Palestine has not been at the top of the agenda as it should have been on both global politics to Arab politics to the politics of the Muslim world or to the third world. It really hasn't been the case. So what I'll request Amal and then Lina to, and even we'll be talking about the solutions as to what kind of solution. The two-state solution doesn't make any sense. It hasn't made sense for a long, long time. So what is this one-state solution, or the one democratic state of Palestine as it is being called? So all of these issues we will discuss during the course of the next 2 hours. And the idea is also to make this now into a, we need to have this dialogue going on between friends in Palestine and India and other parts of the world. We'll be also planning more international level webinars in the days to come, because we need to resume the dialogue, which has lessened over the last 2-3 years. So I think let's do a little round of introductions if we want. We have Piyush there with us. Mr. M.A. Khalid is there. We have Lina from Gaza. Varsha is from Bombay. Chirag, who has done a lot of work on Palestine. Our friend Kishore Jagtap, who's the Vice President of the India-Palestine. A lot of my work on Palestine wouldn't have been possible if it were not for Kishore Jagtap, who is on the 1+7. So Kishore is there from Mangaon with a lot of difficulty. And my sister Varsha is there. We've all grown together in the Sarvodaya Gandhian movement. They've all been great support for us. And then we have Manjari, Dr. Suresh Kanara joined us, that's good. He's the president of our forum. He's been there on both our convoys to historic convoys, once to Gaza and the others to the borders of Lebanon and Palestine. We have Manu from Hyderabad. She's done a lot of work on Palestine. I'm glad Manu is there. Smita joined us. Dr. Siddharth Gupta, Muhammad Ali, Manjari Dhuri, Vaishnavi. Yeah, a lot of good friends are joining us. Someone called Mercedes is there. I don't know who that is. Mudassir, Ria Panchal. So Afaq Azad, who's been one of the core, he's been one of the core thinkers of our group. I'm glad to see Afaq is there. And Shujaat Ali Qadri, who's done phenomenal work as a youngster and has really led his movement, the Muslim Student Organization. He's part of the national leadership of the India-Palestine Solidarity Forum and does tremendous work. Shujaat has done tremendous work on the issue. Vichita joined us, Nafis. So we have a lot of friends who are joining us. So let's start the ball rolling. I think if Amal can start the discussion. Amal, who Wadan, a very important figure of the struggle from Palestine. She's from Ramallah. We've been in touch for a number of years. She's known to a number of people out here. So I request Amal to speak for 5-10 minutes as long as she wants to, and then Lina from Gaza, and then we can take it on from there. Yes, Amal. Amal, your voice. Amal, can everybody hear Amal?
Can't hear you, Amal.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got
now we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Feroz, for initiating this webinar, and it's a great pleasure to be with all of our Indian brothers and sisters, comrades, who are supporting our struggle. Just a little background about myself. I've been involved in the National Palestinian Movement since I was in the university, and during the first Intifada, I was part of those who initiated the leadership of the first Intifada, the unified leadership of this first Intifada. I was banned from traveling for 10 years, and I was under town arrest for 8 years. Then during the Intifada, I was arrested twice and finally deported to Jordan. My husband also was deported to Lebanon during the first Intifada. This was in 1989. So we go back a long way. Actually, I wouldn't be imagining that after all that struggle, that the PLO took the wrong route to Madrid and then to Oslo agreement, when we had a great Intifada, a great unification between the whole factions and the people. It has a lot of positive impact on the whole world. It put the Palestinian cause right in front of all Western media. But unfortunately, we went back and they took us to Oslo instead of strengthening and coordinating with us to the right path. Now, with what's going on with the annexation plan, we have to set the record straight. First of all, even after Oslo, after 25 years of Oslo, we are still living under occupation. And for those of you who visited Palestine, my friend Shiraj, who was here, we met here in Palestine, they know very well that Palestine is occupied. Whole of Palestine is occupied. First, it was 1948 borders, and then later on 1967. And afterwards, after the Oslo, it's still the same. On the contrary, it intensified. So without announcing this plan, the annexation plan, the facts on the ground shows that we are, as Palestinians, around 6.5 million people in Gaza, in the West Bank, Jerusalem, and occupied Palestine of 1948. 6.5 million people are still suffering from this occupation. What they wanted to do, what the Israelis and the Zionist leadership here trying to do, is to formalize this occupation, to get recognition by the European Union, and of course they got the support of the USA. So instead of going to the path of a two-state solution, as it was initiated in Oslo, we are going back to a one state under occupation, one Palestine under occupation. And the occupation, this occupation or this annexation plan actually goes or fits in the Zionist project of Greater Israel, which so many Zionist leaders have declared it from the beginning. It extends from the Bronx of Egypt to the Euphrates. That's the Greater Israel that they are working to achieve. So it's endangering the whole area here, the whole, from Egypt to the Euphrates. This means Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, all of these areas, of course, the Saudis and all these entities, as we say, functional entities, will be also affected by the Greater Israel project. So this is like an introduction. Then we can go into the details.
Yes, carry on, Amal, carry on.
Carry on. Okay.
Yeah.
So this illusion of the two-state solution that was agreed upon in the Oslo agreement, it was never put in action. what went on, the Israelis went with their own project, land thefting and confiscation and settlements. The number of settlers in the West Bank, I'm talking about the West Bank, number of settlers in 1993 was about 120,000. Now it rose up to 800,000. And the number of settlements also intensified. Dozens of new settlements was set in the West Bank, was built in the West Bank at the expense of the Palestinians. Jerusalem is surrounded, is eaten by large settlements, and we can see that every day, Palestinian quarters surrounding the old city of Jerusalem are being attacked, harassed daily, on a daily basis. People being arrested just to reject evacuating their homes. It's not rejecting only the occupation. They are tracing people or tracking people into their homes. So this kind of measurements, actually, which was carried on during the last 25 years, put us in a confrontation with what we call the Zionist colonial settler apartheid entity that is locking down and imprisoning 6.5 million people. Gaza has been under siege for 13 years. Internal fights and internal differences between the major two political parties is not something that was invented in Palestine by the Palestinians. It was imposed on these two big factions by outside power. You know the major slogan of colonialism, divide and rule. That's what they did with the Palestinians. All these differences, internal fights, meant to divide the leadership first and then the people. That's why we say we see Gaza is separated. Jerusalem, of course, is on its own. It cannot. We don't have the right, actually, to go to Jerusalem. We have to go through the checkpost and we have to get permissions. And if we are allowed, for example, I am not allowed. They don't give me any permission. If I wanted to enter Jerusalem, they tell me that I have to go to the Israeli intelligence for interrogation. So I don't get the chance to visit Jerusalem or the 1948 cities, for example, without a permission. But we have also the Palestinians, in their defiance of this occupation, invented their own measurements, their own ways to defy the Israeli occupation. I can go wherever I want without going.
Amal, hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, Amal. Yeah, it's me, Feroz. What I'm saying is you explained the first Intifada and its impact. Afterwards, in fact, with the Labour Party coming in to Ariel Sharon at that time, and then you had Ehud Barak. So these settlements carried on. They just carried on. And, you know, it was all about the Israeli security. And that led to the second Intifada. Okay. The first Intifada was very popular, in fact, 100% non-violent. The second Intifada was different. In fact, it could not sustain itself. So if you can go to the second Intifada, explain that, then coming to, you know, Arafat then came to a point where he said no more compromise. He was assassinated. So if you could explain the second Intifada, and I think after that we can have Lina explaining the current phase of the Israeli annexation, then we can bring Lina in. But since you started off with the first Intifada, let's come to the second Intifada in the year 2000, when Ariel Sharon marched to the Haram Sharif.
Okay. Yeah, that's how the second Intifada actually began, by Sharon defying or inciting the Palestinian let's say, Palestinians in Jerusalem by entering into Al-Aqsa Mosque. Al-Aqsa Mosque is very sacred for the Muslim community, and actually it is also sacred for the Christian